We got a guest on the line that's going to help us go around the league here. Former Coach of the Year, current NBA TV analyst, Sam Mitchell. Sam, what's going on, man?
How you doing, guys? I'm listening to you guys' conversation, and I agree with some of it, but I think I disagree with whoever's talking about Westbrook. I think we all saw how important Westbrook was to this Oklahoma City team. And we all complained about how he played and he should pass more and things of that nature. But from my point of view, Westbrook has to play that way because if you look at it, Serge Ibaka for the past 2 years has disappeared in the playoffs. And Kevin Durant has shown that he can't carry the load by himself. And Westbrook is that guy. Yeah, I know he takes some crazy shots sometimes, but I tell you what, without him, without Westbrook, people don't even pick them as a serious contender in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true, Sam. This is your old teammate, Mark Strickland, and your Georgia hometown buddy.
Yeah, and I agree. I think Westbrook takes a lot of unfair criticism. I think the criticism was warranted until we realized just how valuable PC is to Oklahoma City. When he went down, they were just not the same team. I mean, they couldn't even function because he put so much pressure on the defense to where he makes life easy for everybody out there. And I know he's a volume scorer at times, but I tell you what, they have no chance without him.
Yeah.
But I feel like they don't have a chance with him either because he shoots them out of game sometimes. He's out of control. Just what you said. If he would pass the ball more, they wouldn't have looked as bad as they did when he got hurt. That's why they didn't know what to do because he controls the ball all the time. He's always on the ball, shooting shots, pulling up. There's no discipline to their offense sometimes, and I think that hurts them sometimes. There's always a point in the game where you're going to have to slow things down and kind of get buckets and be under control as an offense. And I think I like him as a player, and they definitely need him, but I think they're going to have to get another piece before anybody can consider them a championship contender.
If Westbrook is not shooting, then who you going to pass it to? Serge Ibaka?
Nah, man. You got to keep that piece. They got to find somebody.
Especially this year, Kevin Martin's gone. You lost James Harden last year.
Yeah,
who are you going to tell Westbrook? Who do you trust more than Westbrook and Durant on that team?
Yeah.
Now that's all they have.
Right.
About eventually.
Okay, then. So my point is, Westbrook is going to have to take more shots because I don't trust anyone else on that basketball team when it comes to crunch time to score the ball other than Durant or Westbrook. And Westbrook not only can he get a shot, but he can get to the basket on anyone.
He's a great. Westbrook's a great player. I think there's a lot of players that take questionable shots, but it's not like Westbrook is like, oh my god, like all his shots are terrible. Every now and then he's feeling it.
He's not that bad.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I'm not saying he's a bad player. I think he's a great player. I just think sometimes he needs to play a little bit more under control. That's all I'm saying. That's all my point.
But you could say the same thing about Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah,
you could say the same thing about any scorer for the most part. That's their nature. Scorers are aggressive by nature. You could have said the same thing about Michael Jordan. That there was times when Michael Jordan took a lot of bad shots. But because he was Michael Jordan,
but he wasn't the point guard.
He felt like that shot may be bad for the average player, but not for him. And I think Westbrook, I'm not saying he's Michael Jordan, but I'm saying all scorers have the same type mentality.
Yeah.
Well, they're 100% going to need Westbrook in some capacity because they're in danger of becoming. They were the number one seed in the West last season. They're in danger of, in my opinion, falling to 6, 7, or 8 because I don't think they're better than San Antonio. Don't think they're better than Denver, the Clippers, Memphis, Golden State. That's 5 teams. Houston is 6. So in my opinion right now, Oklahoma City is looking from a 1 seed last year to a 7 seed next season, especially if Westbrook's misses any time in the regular season.
I think they're better than Denver. I think you're going to see a different Denver team. Denver's not going to play that all-out style that George Karl had them playing. They're going to play more control because talking to Brian Shaw this summer in the Summer League, and he wants this team to be more of a playoff caliber team. And so how do you get ready for the playoffs? You have to play that way during the regular season. So I think he's going to be a little bit more under control with that team. And then again, I feel like OKC over them. I think OKC is still a top 4 team in the West. But again, without Westbrook, I don't think they can go deep into the playoffs or even be considered a serious contender for a championship.
So, Sam, let me ask you. Let's shift off OKC for a second. In your opinion, all right, what team do you think is kind of going to fly under the radar or this summer made some moves? Where, a team that kind of may surprise a lot of people. What would be your pick?
Well, I think Cleveland is not necessarily going to fly on the radar, but I think the expectation is going to be tapered because of Barry Young coming back from injury. And then you don't know what kind of shape Andrew Bynum eventually is going to be in. I mean, and with all the injuries they've had, I think Cleveland's going to fly on the radar until they're healthy. Then I think Cleveland has a chance to be a top 5 team in the Eastern Conference. And then out West, I still say this. Everybody thinks San Antonio, every year you want to stick a fork in San Antonio, but some kind of way Coach Popovich gets this team ready, and they end up being one of the elite teams in the West. I think Memphis is going to take a step back. I just think Dave Yeager, I think he's I think he's a fine young coach, but I think if he's going to try to play an up-tempo game, it's not going to suit Zach Randolph and Marcus All. So I think Memphis is going to take a step back because when you play up-tempo, then you're going to give the other team more possessions because part of their defense was their tempo. They held the ball and slowed the game down. So that was part of their defense. And now if you're going to speed the game up, you lose that element on the defensive end.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
What about Detroit in the East? I'm particularly high on them because of all the moves that they made. Now, we just spoke about, I don't know if you caught any of that, but Brandon Jennings is hurt, Rodney Stuckey is hurt. They may miss the beginning of the season. But I think Detroit, from the moves that they made, really put themselves in a position to get like a 6 or 7 seed in the East.
Well, I agree. I think Detroit with Brandon Jennings, Josh Smith, with the moves they made, I think Detroit's a playoff team. I think Detroit should be disappointed if they don't make the playoffs this coming season. With the talent, because they can put a big lineup out there that is good as with Greg Monroe and Josh Smith. I think they can put and Drummond. They can put a big lineup out there that's second to none. And so I like Detroit. I picked Detroit as a team that's going to make the playoffs also. So I just think there are going to be some teams that haven't made the playoffs in the past that's going to make it going forward. There are going to be some disappointments with some teams. And I think you're going to see some of the teams that made coaching changes because of the style of play. Because guys got to remember something. Even though Memphis was good, even though Denver was good, they got new coaches. And these new coaches have to bring in their style of play, or the people are going to simply ask, if Dave Yeager plays the same way that they played on the line of Holland, why would you make a coaching change? And the same thing in Denver. Why would you make a coaching change if the new coach comes in and plays the same style and runs the same offense that George Carr did? It didn't make no sense.
Denver
was
crazy.
Figure, those guys cannot coach that style better than the previous coaches.
That's something I still don't understand. Denver making the coaching change. Look, I get Brian Shaw, I guess, deserved a chance. I'm not knocking that. But George Karl was coach of the year. The Nuggets never had like a real go-to guy. I guess Ty Lawson on that team is like the closest thing to your go-to player. And it's not like he's considered one of the elite in the NBA by any means. And they still managed to have a really good season. It was, unfortunate what happened in the playoffs. But, Gallo was injured in the playoffs also. I mean, they were still missing some help, I guess, in that regard. But I was just surprised that a coach of the year got replaced by Brian Shaw. That was just bizarre.
Really? When did coach of the year guarantee your job these days in the NBA? Remember, guys, I got coach of the year. I got fired, and my record was 8-9. I was basically 500 with 2 new starters.
Yeah, that was also mind-blowing to me, though. I was surprised at that, too.
But that's the business now, man. Think about it. These general managers these days hire people that they're comfortable with. They don't hire guys that are coaches. If you look at the coaches that was fired, I love Brian Shaw.
Right.
I think all these guys who got a job deserve an opportunity.
Yeah.
But do you deserve an opportunity from a guy that won over 55 games?
Yeah.
I mean, what else is he supposed to do when you win 55 games? And there were guys who kept their jobs that teams underperformed. But for Lionel Hollins and George Karl, I get as a general manager, they're not your cup of tea. But you know what? Sometimes the guy that you may not like the best may be the best fit for your team coaching it, and the guy you like the most that you have a good relationship with, he may not get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think a lot of that is financial? You know what I'm saying? It has to do with money, budgeting, trying to cut back on that since players are making so much money now?
I think money is a big issue. I think it has a lot to do with personality conflict. I think in Memphis, I just think the new general manager just didn't hit it off with Lionel. I think in Denver, I think, once Masai Ujiri left, I think they just decided that, George Karl just wasn't their cup of tea. Yeah. And so I just think those changes were made. Yeah, I'm sure not having to pay Lionel Hollins and George Karl $4.5 million a year had something to do with it, but I think it was just as much the new general managers just didn't feel comfortable with those guys.
And I'm seeing a lot of coaching changes where a lot of coaches are now approaching players with that laid-back approach. Like they're not getting as frustrated with certain things. And I don't know if I necessarily like that. I feel like I like the coaches that yell at guys, get on guys when they mess up because, that I don't know. I feel like that's what coaches do. That's what you're supposed to do. That's how you get guys to perform. I feel like we don't see, I don't see too many Greg Popoviches in the NBA anymore. I just don't see them that often. I'm seeing more guys like Frank Vogel, Monty Williams, guys that really just take that kind of subtle approach. They don't get mad at their guys when they make mistakes or anything. And I'm just I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I'm a fan of that.
Yeah. I just
think it just depends on your team. It depends on your team, what guys can and can't take, and so it just depends on the personality of your team. But I think it's a time and a place to get on guys about mistakes. But I also think sometimes you just have to understand the players today are different. And some guys just can't handle that. But I go back and say, look at the coaches who win championships. The guys, the old school guys are the ones still winning championships. Everybody's trying to reinvent the wheel, but guess what? The guys that have realized the wheel is still round and the wheels on the bus go round and round, those are the ones that continue to win. And everybody who comes in with these new ideas, trying to reinvent the wheel, they don't win.
Yeah.
Nope.
So we're talking about coaching. I got to bring up then the elephant in the room. You can't see it, Sam, but I got a Brooklyn Nets hat on here. Jason Kidd, what is the deal in Brooklyn? How does that play out? Not only from a guy who goes from playing to coaching directly, but a guy who's taking over a team with people like Kevin Garnett and Jason Terry and Paul Pierce on the squad. How does that play out in your mind?
Well, I think Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce are professional enough to understand that, Jason Kidd was a great player, but he's still a young rookie coach, and that they're going to have to help him sometimes and work with him about some things. But I think those guys are smart enough and understand the game enough to where it's going to be okay. I mean, look, at the end of the day, Jason Kidd's the coach. You got to listen and respect the coach. Jason Kidd knows these guys, and he understands that he has a better team, but he's going to have to understand that, it's going to be some give and take because veteran players have a strong opinion about certain things. And, as a young coach, sometimes it's a luxury to have veterans to listen to, but you got to be willing to listen to them.
Yeah.
Right. So where do you think the Nets are going to finish this season, Sam?
I think they're going to finish in the top 4. I think that's all they need to do. I think trying to have the best record in the East is not that important to them. They need to be healthy and rested going into the playoffs. I definitely think they're going to be one of the top 4 teams. And I think the guy that's going to put them over the top is going to be Brook Lopez. I think everybody keeps saying Darren Williams and Joe Johnson and those guys. But I think the guy that's going to get them over the top is going to be Brook Lopez because for the most part, he's going to have a distinct advantage every night at that center position because he can flat out score.
For sure. Do you think there's any Eastern team that can beat the Heat in a series? I don't think so.
Well, I think if Greg Oden is not healthy and don't play at least 55, 60 games, I think the Chicago Bulls or the Indiana Pacers can knock Miami out of that number 1 seed. I really believe that because, again, remember, San Antonio was a rebound and a free throw away from knocking off Miami.
Right.
If San Antonio gets that rebound, then we're not even having this conversation about Miami being the best team in the East.
Right.
Because they realized how fortunate they were to win the championship, and they realized that they don't bring some size in there. You can't keep asking Chris Bosh to play center. Right. Remember, Chris Bosh did not score a basket. Right. We're talking about a max player at the power forward position, an all-star. He didn't score a bucket in game 6. And game 7. That's scary.
Yeah.
Right.
Not one bucket.
Not one.
Now,
I still don't see no. I just still don't see nobody beat him.
I'm sitting at home watching on TV.
Yeah.
I think that there are teams that have the makeup to beat the Heat. Like you said, size is an issue. So the Pacers have that, and they bring in Scola. So the Pacers have size. So that's the kryptonite to the Heat.
Right.
The Knicks, they have the ability. I know they lost Copeland and Novak, but I think they still have the ability to lead the league in 3-pointers made. And that can hurt the Heat. Obviously, the 3-point basket is a great neutralizer to any game. So I think the Knicks and the Heat have that. The Bulls, they need Derrick Rose. Without Derrick Rose, obviously, they're not even a topic of conversation.
And he already tweaked his knee again or whatever.
Yeah, well, he had arrested. He had some soreness, but they said that was just for precaution. You know, they're going to need Derrick Rose at MVP level, if not near it, if they're going to beat the Heat. And then you look at the Nets. They're a big mystery because you got Kevin Garnett, who may or may not be playing in back-to-backs. Same thing with Terry and Paul Pierce. So you got some age there. Darren Williams is hurt right now, so the chemistry is out the window for them early on. Brook Lopez pairing with Kevin Garnett is great because Brook Lopez can't rebound and Kevin Garnett can, so that's like a dream. They complement each other great.
Yep.
I do think teams have the components to beat the Heat, but when you put it all together, that's the question. Teams
can you put it together?
Yeah.
Can it come together on the court? You know, can the Knicks make the baskets down the stretch? Can the Pacers exploit the Heat down low on the block? Like you said, Bosh didn't even score. I mean, he may as well not even been in the game. So he may as well not even been there.
Yeah.
I hear all that about the Miami Heat. I hear all that about Indiana, but don't forget, not only Scola, but you got Danny Granger coming back. You got a 18 to 20 point scorer coming back into your lineup. Right. A team that pushed Miami to the brink. And now you got a 20-point scorer coming back to the Knicks and Danny Granger alongside Scola. Indiana has upgraded that roster, that bench, and I just feel like between them and Chicago, they are poised to overtake the Heat if Greg Oden can't play.
Can Paul George still be Paul George with Granger on the team, though?
Yeah, could those two coexist?
He could be better because now he can do the other things. He can handle the ball. He can play better defense. He can do more because, you know, sometimes I think Paul George gets stuck between having to score too much. And I really think he likes the game to come to him rather going to get it. And I think Danny Granger's a more let me go get it guy.
Yeah. I'd say I agree with that. I'd agree with that.
It's going to be interesting in the East and the West. I really think the Clippers did enough to be the number 1 seed next season. Starting with Doc Rivers, obviously one of the best coaches.
That was the best move to me. That was the best move in the offseason, getting Doc Rivers
because it brings them defense. It brings them defense. Yes, he's a defensive coach. Doc Rivers is a defensive coach, and that's what they're lacking.
And he's a guy that players respect. I mean, I can't firsthand. I don't know for sure, but there was always rumors that the players didn't like Vinny Del Negro, that he wasn't a player's coach for them, that they didn't like him or respect him. But Doc Rivers commands that respect.
Yeah. He's a winner.
Well, I hear you, but I tell you what, you better win. You better win just as many games for the coach that you like as you did for the coach you claimed you didn't like.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say. And look, Doc is a friend of mine, so is Vinny. Vinny did an outstanding job. I wasn't there, so I don't know what went on. You don't know what went on a day-to-day basis in that locker room. But all I know is that they won a lot of games.
Yeah.
And they did underachieve in the playoffs, but they won a lot of games. So it's going to remain to be seen.
Right.
Exactly. A lot of people are picking the Clippers to win the West. I'm not picking them because until DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin, you could throw them the ball and they can score. And then they can shoot free throws consistently. I don't know how how you can have two guys with that kind of talent. You can't win the Western Conference if those two guys, and I mean legit all-star. Blake Griffin needs to become a legit all-star. Not an all-star because he has unbelievable highlights, but a guy that you can throw the ball to and he can get to the free throw line or he can score.
Yeah.
And he's got to make that jump shot. He's got to knock down that outside jump shot.
Absolutely.
I need that.
Especially the short corner jump shot and the free throw line jump shot. You got to be able to make those.
Definitely.
For sure.
Well, guys, I like y'all. I enjoy the show. I'll talk to you another time, but right now I'm going to get off the show with you guys. Because we can sit here and do this all night.
Right. All
right. And the money that y'all put into the meter has just ran out. No, I'm joking, guys.
No, it's all good. Sam Mitchell, former Coach of the Year for the Raptors and NBA TV analyst. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next week, man.
All right, guys.
All right, take it easy.
Thanks, Sam.